that it takes Armageddon to win, you end up really carrying that momentum. So we'll see how Noterbeck is. Ultimately, we'll get to that in a minute, because the first of our winners bracket battles, look at this. Playing fast, playing on prep. No more A6 from Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, he couldn't get away with it against this guy. But we get such a cool opening.
Yeah, and more importantly, none of the Rosalimo that we saw in the World Championship match between these two in a Sicilian. For a moment there, I thought Fabi was extremely still on the camera, but good to know that everything's fine, the camera's working. And G4 on the board, David.
Yeah, G4 for the score, as they say. Very aggressive play from Fabiano, throwing all pawns forward now on the king side, just preempting a decision by the black king. Now black's king should not ever get tempted to castle kingside, because it's going to be walking straight into an attack.
But we didn't necessarily see this Taimanov Paulsen system. We saw a lot of Sveshnikov. MVL avoids the Najdorf against Fabiano. That should tell you, right? And MVL doesn't avoid the Najdorf against anybody. So this is going to be awesome to see. Magnus played H6, which was the first move that kind of threw Fabi off before he remembered his prep.
Prepared player in the world. Now, apparently, that crown belongs to Anish Giri, according to Hikaru.
You gain 1 or 2, sometimes 3 moves even, for the sacrificed material. And here, white, as we see, nice safe king on c1, and white's piece is looking very active. It looks like you've got some pawn breaks as well.
It's could well just really come to life. It's already alive. And the other thing is, like, Magnus historically didn't really play like this, right? He's only started to play like this when he's maybe not, holding on to that world championship title as much. He's playing a lot freer. He always used to play quite safe, not taking too many risks, but this is an incredibly risky way to play, right? This kind of setup.
A player like Magnus Carlsen, you want to get him into that Mikhail Tal deep dark forest of complications early on, where the path is narrow enough for just one player to get out. Is that the kind of position that you should be aiming for against Magnus?
Tanya, you mentioned taking him into a deep dark forest. I mean, Jordan tried that yesterday. He took him into a deep dark van forest, but it didn't work.
That's fine.
So,
LOL.
Yeah, right now, this one is a complicated position. And Danny, you're right. These days, he kind of relies on opening preparation more, computers more, and he has a great team around him, of course, Magnus. He said recently in a training camp that now more than ever has he relied on these sharp variations, because that's the only way to do it. It's up to Fabi to prove the compensation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great thing that he's done in general. I mean, if you look at a lot of players, I'm just taking players who play a lot of chess on the British circuit, who may be getting a bit older, and they just play the same chess all the time.
Looks quite stable for now, but knowing Magnus, I've seen him in similar positions drop his knight back and try to bring it round to a nice outpost on f5 a bit later on. It looks like you're taking liberties, you're undeveloping your pieces, but actually this black rook is pretty much developed anyway on an open file. This bishop can come out later, and if white doesn't strike now, then you will bring your knight to a better outpost later.
Well, that last one, but look at this. What's happening here? This is completely bonkers as well, right? Completely mad.
Just a weird position. White is down a whole pawn and still has the luxury to slow play it.
There is a battery on the C file, and C2 is hanging with check. So when you kind of laugh in the face of danger, we should show what's going on with rook takes f4, deflecting the queen, queen takes c2 check. But it's one of those funny Sicilian positions where you got to calculate to the end, because just because you get a scary check may not actually mean you have anything left in the tank. And this is reminiscent of a lot of Najdorf type positions. White is actually happy here up the exchange.
It does now. Yeah, I mean, I don't think white has managed to generate enough threats in the position. I mean, how does white even generate a threat in this position? And if black can get his knight and bishop into the game, okay, his king's always going to be in the middle, but it doesn't seem to be in too much trouble there. Black's got enough counterplay against white's king as well. So this is starting, I feel, to go in Magnus's favour.
But yeah, if you survive, unfortunately, white just can't get the knight out of the way quickly enough.
Yeah, Magnus might be both. Both madman and genius. So.
That's true. And your call on the board, Danny, knight to d3. I think the only safe way to stop knight e5 might be to play bishop to d6. Plays the right way, we think maybe take you on f3, then he keeps the advantage, but it will take nerves of steel. And okay, he dodges any complications. He plays bishop to d6, and I think, Danny, your move might well just appear on the board. Utilize that.
Oh, it doesn't work. Thank you, computer.
Queen d1, queen c2.
Oh, queen d1. I forgot c2 is hanging at the end.
Yeah, counter attack.
Okay, so
maybe in this position, at least you've created this pin. Maybe you can go for the slow burn attack. I don't quite see it yet. How to break through.
God, what a weird position.
Weird stuff, complicated stuff. And here, at least you have maybe tricks. Danny.
And again, it's so easy looking at these positions with the evaluation bar. Well, it's not easy, but it makes it, you get an indication when a move goes wrong. But imagine you're sitting there trying to calculate these out. You don't know if the move's good or bad, except by calculate. It brings in a whole different dimension. And, you know, it's an incredible position.
He's under 4 minutes right now, though, and it feels like he's been making one accurate move after another, but it's still complicated. Magnus's king is still in the center. The players have no idea about the eval bar. They don't know who's winning, who's better, who's not.
I guess I'm having a hard time seeing threats for white. That's my problem. You know what really kills me is that knight on f5. That knight on f5 is guarding and controlling everything. It is a pain, and you know what?
I think as David says it, this is this is a stallion on the board right now. That knight on f5, not only a great defensive piece, but also an attacking piece, controlling so many squares. And Fabi trying to create threats here. It's exactly what he's doing, touching the 1 minute mark. Any chances for Fabi here?
It's one of those positions that's even worse than the math says it is, because white has no threats here. The rook on h4 guards b4. The queen is guarding everything. I'm like, what is Fabi going to do? Now he's under, I guess he's under a minute.
The one thing I would do here, I mean, Magnus, he'll find a more sophisticated move for sure, but the one thing I would do is just defend everything. Just put a rook on c6 and say, you shall not pass, and just cover all of these pawns, and I don't see anything ever going wrong there, but he finds a maybe even stronger move, trying to force those rooks off the board. Simon, you said any trades help, and that seems to be the case, and unfortunately it's hard to keep this rook on the board, because if you slide it across, attack that black queen, the other move you mentioned, now a queen trade is guaranteed, and that will end the game. 2 extra pawns for black.
Yowie.
Okay, he plays rook h2. At least the white queen has more squares to flee to if you try to trade off now. That's desperation. Of course, the mouse slips. There's other ways that Fabi can get back into this game. And, okay, d5 looks fine. Planting a pawn on a very safe square. Still lacking ideas here for Fabi to break through. That white queen, it just needs to land somewhere on the queen side, somewhere behind enemy lines to give black a check, but still how to break through.
I think d5 has a concrete threat. He wants to play knight e3, and Fabi didn't stop it. Because the knight was guarding d6, and so now you can go to e3 without queen taking, which forks the d1 rook and the c2 pawn. It's funny, he didn't...
Looks strong. Maybe he'll land it now.
You couldn't even take that pawn with a bishop, because rook d4 was just game over immediately. So... you know, he's dropping pawns
there he
like
goes,
like I drop ELO points. And
and they're finishing it off in style. Take c2.
Beautiful chess here.
Very
Queen
nice.
takes pawn. The white king has to move.
What a game.
And you can just go, you can do many
Checkmate in
things.
3 now.
Rook e1.
Yeah, this
Rook
is
e1 is coming.
too many tempting options, aren't there? I mean, like, you can
Fabi
pin the
has
queen.
resigned.